I sat in my living room on pension day, hands trembling as I heard Derek's truck pull into the driveway for the 43rd time in 3.5 years. This time was different. Across from me sat a woman in a gray suit holding a leather briefcase. Attorney Patricia Henshaw. Derek didn't know she was here. Derek didn't know that today, the monthly shakedown ends. Today, his father stops being a victim and starts fighting back. The doorbell rang, and I felt my chest tighten. I looked at Patricia and gave her a small nod. She stood quietly and moved toward the kitchen, just out of sight from the front door. I took a deep breath and walked to answer it. Derek stood there with that familiar smile plastered on his face, the one that used to warm my heart when he was a boy. Now it just made my stomach turn. "Hey, Dad," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Got a minute?" I nodded and closed the door behind him. My mind drifted back to how this nightmare began. 3.5 years ago, I had just started receiving my pension from the county water department. 42 years of service, and finally, I could rest. $2,300 a month. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to cover my bills, buy groceries, maybe take Linda and her kids out to dinner once in a while. My wife had been gone for 2 years by then, and the house felt empty, but I was managing. Derek showed up on that first pension day unannounced. I remember being surprised but happy to see him. He didn't visit often. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something," he had said, his face serious. "It's Emma." My heart had jumped. Emma, my granddaughter. She was 6 years old then, sweet as sunshine. "What's wrong? Is she okay?" "She needs emergency dental surgery," Derek explained, pulling out his phone to show me what looked like a text from a dentist's office. "Her tooth is infected. They need to pull it and do this whole procedure. Insurance won't cover all of it. I'm $800 short." I didn't hesitate. Emma needed help. I wrote him a check right there. Derek hugged me tight. "You're the best dad ever. I'll pay you back as soon as I can." I waved him off. Family takes care of family. The next month, he came back. Car transmission broke down. $600. I gave it to him. Month 3, the electric company was going to shut off his power. $450. Month 4, Emma needed school supplies and money for a field trip. $300. Month 5, medical bills from an urgent care visit. $700. Month 6, he was short on rent because his hours got cut. $900. Every month, there was something. Every month, he had paperwork or photos or some kind of proof. Every month, I believed him because he was my son. Why wouldn't I believe my own son? By the end of that first year, I had given him about $7,500. Not once did he mention paying me back. Not once did I ask. But I started noticing things. Small things. When I called to check on Emma, she seemed fine. No sign of dental work. When I mentioned the car trouble to Sarah, Derek's wife, she looked confused. "What car trouble?" she had asked. "The transmission," I said. She paused. "Oh, right. Yeah, that was rough." But her pause told me everything. She was covering for him. Then one day, about 14 months into this pattern, I ran into Derek's neighbor at the grocery store. We chatted about the weather, about how the neighborhood was changing, and then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Saw Derek at the Riverboat Casino again last week. 3rd time that month. Guy must really love gambling, huh?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I mumbled something and finished my shopping in a daze. That night, I couldn't sleep. I drove to Derek's apartment complex. His truck was there, lights on inside. I know I shouldn't have, but I walked up close to the window. From the sidewalk, I could see through a gap in the curtains. Derek and Sarah were arguing, loudly. "You gambled it away again," Sarah was screaming. "Your father's money. Emma's college fund is gone. Everything is gone." I stumbled back to my car and sat there for 20 minutes, shaking. All of it. Every emergency. Every crisis. All lies. The dental surgery never happened. The car was fine. Emma's needs were fabricated. All of it went into slot machines and poker tables. I drove home and cried for the first time since my wife's funeral. All that money. All those months of believing him. I felt like a fool. When the next pension day came, Derek showed up right on schedule. This time, he needed money for Emma's basketball camp. $1,200. My hands were shaking as I confronted him. I know about the casino. Derek's face went blank for a second. Then something shifted. His expression turned cold, then transformed into something uglier. You calling me a liar? He said, his voice hard. After everything I've done for you, I was stunned. I expected denial, maybe embarrassment, but not this. He started listing all the times he had helped me. Mowed my lawn twice, fixed a leaky faucet once, picked up groceries when I had the flu. You're living in this big house all alone while I'm struggling to make ends meet, he said, his voice rising. I take care of you, and this is how you repay me? By accusing me? Derek, I'm not accusing. I'm just saying I know about the gambling and I can't keep giving you money. His face twisted with rage. You know what? Mom would be ashamed of how selfish you've become. He left without taking money that day. I stood there in my living room, feeling like the world had turned upside down. How did I become the bad guy? I called Linda that night. My daughter lived 4 states away. She was a nurse, had her own family, her own life. I didn't want to burden her, but I needed to talk to someone. Dad, I'm so sorry, she said when I told her everything. I should have warned you sooner. Warn me about what? Derek's had problems since he was 16. He got arrested once for theft. Mom kept it from you because she didn't want you to be disappointed. And Dad, he borrowed $3,000 from me 2 years ago. Never paid it back. I cut him off after that. I felt the room spinning. My own son, my own family, and I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. I didn't want to burden you after Mom died. You were grieving. I thought maybe he'd changed. I'm sorry, Dad. We talked for an hour. By the end, I understood what had happened. I had been an enabler, a mark, a victim. 3 days later, I found my mailbox smashed with a baseball bat, my garden hose cut into pieces, and at 2 a.m, a rock came through my living room window. Attached to it was a note written in black marker. Don't forget family. I called the police, but there was no proof it was Derek. The officer took a report and left. That night, I realized this wasn't over. Derek wasn't going to just accept being cut off. This was going to get worse, and I was right. 2 weeks passed without a word from Derek. I changed my locks. I installed a security camera by my front door. I barely slept. Every sound in the night made me jump. Pension day arrived again, and I sat in my living room, wondering if he would show up. He didn't, but the next afternoon, there was a knock at my door. It wasn't Derek. It was Sarah, and she had Emma with her. Emma ran up and hugged me. Grandpa, I missed you. My heart melted. I hadn't seen her in weeks. She was growing so fast, nearly 10 years old now. I missed you too, sweetheart, I said, holding her tight. Sarah stood in the doorway, looking nervous. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Marlon, can we talk? She asked quietly. I let them in. Emma went to play with the wooden toys I kept in the corner for her visits. Sarah sat on the couch and started crying. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know how bad it was until recently. The gambling? I asked. She nodded. Derek has a disease. He needs help. But right now, we have a crisis. She pulled out a piece of paper from her purse. An eviction notice. 3 months behind on rent. $2,700 owed. 5 days until they were evicted. If we don't pay this, we'll be homeless, Sarah said through her tears. Emma will have to leave her school. We have nowhere to go. Emma looked over at us. Grandpa, are we going to be homeless? My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I couldn't let my granddaughter end up on the street. Whatever Derek had done, Emma was innocent. Sarah showed me a brochure for Gamblers Anonymous. She showed me an appointment card for a counseling center, dated for the following week. This is the last time, she promised. We're getting Derek help. Please, Marlon. For Emma, I went to my bedroom and took $2,700 from my emergency fund. The fund I had been saving for home repairs, medical emergencies, things like that. I gave it to Sarah. She hugged me. Emma hugged me. They left, and I sat in my empty house feeling uneasy. Something didn't feel right. but I told myself I did it for Emma. 3 days later, I was driving past Derek's apartment complex to go to the hardware store. I took that route without thinking. As I passed, I noticed something strange. No eviction notice on Derek's door. I pulled into the parking lot and sat there for a minute. Then I got out and walked up to the building. The apartment manager, a woman named Helen, was outside watering plants. "Hello, Marlon," she said. She knew me from my previous visits to see Emma. "Helen, can I ask you something? Are Derek and Sarah being evicted?" She looked confused. "Evicted? No. Their rent is paid through the next 3 months. Derek paid it all in advance last month." "Why?" The ground felt like it was falling out from under me. "No reason," I mumbled. "Thank you." I got back in my car and drove straight to Derek's apartment. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Derek wasn't home, but Sarah answered the door. When she saw my face, hers went pale. "The eviction notice was fake," I said. She started crying immediately. "Marlon, I'm so sorry. Tell me the truth." Now, she invited me in. Emma was at school. We sat at their kitchen table, and Sarah told me everything. Derek had made her do it. He printed the fake eviction notice at his friend's office. He coached Emma on what to say. He threatened Sarah that if she didn't help him, he would leave her and Emma with nothing. "He's not the man I married," Sarah whispered. "When he drinks, he gets mean. He yells. I'm scared of him." "Where's the money I gave you?" I asked. "Gone," she said. Derek took it to the casino that same night. Lost it all. I felt rage building inside me like I'd never felt before. My own son had used his wife and daughter as pawns. He had manipulated everyone around him, and he was getting worse. I left Sarah's apartment and drove to Derek's workplace, a construction company on the east side of town. I found his foreman and asked if the company had an employee assistance program. "We do," the foreman said. "Why do you ask?" "My son works here. Derek. He has a gambling problem. I was hoping maybe the company could help, offer some kind of intervention or counseling." The foreman nodded sympathetically. "I'll see what I can do." I thought I was helping. I thought maybe if Derek's employer got involved, it would wake him up. I was wrong. 2 days later, Derek showed up at my house. He was furious, his face red, his fists clenched. "You tried to get me fired!" he screamed, pushing past me into the house. "I didn't try to get you fired. I asked if they had help for you. They pulled me into HR. They humiliated me in front of my coworkers. Everyone knows now." "Good. Maybe you'll finally get help." Derek stepped closer, his face inches from mine. "You're trying to destroy my life, old man." Then he shoved me. Not hard enough to knock me down, but hard enough to make me stumble backward against the wall. At 72 years old, I felt vulnerable for the first time in my own home. "You'll regret this," Derek said quietly. And then he left. That night, all 4 of my car tires were slashed. $700 to replace them. My security camera caught a figure in a hoodie, but the face wasn't visible. I called the police. They said it was probably kids, but I knew better. I started jumping at every sound. I couldn't sleep. I didn't feel safe anymore. And then, on the next pension day, Derek showed up as if nothing had happened. He was smiling. He brought Emma with him. "Hey, Dad," he said warmly. "I think we got off on the wrong foot. Let's start over." Emma hugged me. Derek sat down in my living room like he owned the place. "Emma's class is taking a trip to Washington, D.C., he said. "Educational trip. Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It costs $1,200. I was hoping you could help out." Emma looked at me with those big, hopeful eyes. Derek's smile was predatory. He knew I couldn't say no in front of her. He had found the perfect weapon. I gave him $300. It was all I had left in my wallet until the next pension check. "This is all I have," I said. Derek's smile faded slightly, but he took it. "Thanks, Dad. See you next month." After they left, I sat in my chair and realized the truth. I was trapped in a nightmare, and I couldn't see a way out. I spent the next week researching online. Late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I would sit at my computer typing searches into Google. How to stop adult child from stealing from parent. Financial elder abuse laws. Restraining order against family member. I discovered I wasn't alone. There were thousands of people in my situation. Adult children exploiting their aging parents. The stories I read were heartbreaking, and they all sounded like my own. I found a legal aid organization for seniors in our county. I called and made an appointment. A week later, I sat across from a paralegal named Joyce Caldwell. She was in her 50s, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. I told her everything. "Mr. Marlin," she said when I finished, "what you're describing is financial elder abuse. It's more common than people think." "What can I do?" I asked. She explained my options. I could send Derek a cease and desist letter. I could file for a restraining order, though I would need proof of threats. I could report him to Adult Protective Services. I could change my bank accounts and redirect my pension to a new account he didn't know about. "Let's start with a cease and desist letter," Joyce suggested. "It's a formal legal notice that puts him on warning. Sometimes that's enough to scare people straight." The letter cost $85 in filing fees. Joyce helped me draft it. It was formal legal language that basically said Derek had to stop asking me for money, stop harassing me, and stay away unless I invited him over. Any violation would result in legal action. We sent it via certified mail. Derek had to sign for it. For 1 week, I heard nothing. No calls, no visits, no texts. I started to hope. Maybe the legal letter had worked. Maybe Derek finally understood this was serious. Maybe I could have my life back. I even went to my woodworking shop for the first time in months. I'd been a hobbyist woodworker for years, building small furniture pieces and toys. I started working on a rocking chair I'd abandoned months ago. For the first time, in a long time, I felt at peace. Then, 8 days after the letter was sent, a sheriff's deputy knocked on my door. He handed me a thick envelope. "You've been served," he said, and left. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were court documents. Derek had filed a petition for emergency guardianship over me. He was claiming I was suffering from dementia and couldn't handle my own finances anymore. I read through the petition in disbelief. Derek's affidavit claimed I had become paranoid and delusional, that I accused him of theft when he was just trying to help me, that I had shown erratic behavior and memory loss, that I tried to get him fired from his job based on false accusations. He was requesting the court appoint him as my legal guardian and conservator. If he won, he would control my pension, my bank accounts, my house, everything. The court hearing was scheduled in 18 days. I felt like I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be happening, but the papers in my hand proved it was. I called Joyce at the legal aid office. She was sympathetic, but realistic. "Mr. Marlin, guardianship cases are complex. We don't handle contested guardianships. You'll need a private attorney." She gave me names of elder law attorneys. I called 3 of them. The cheapest wanted a $5,000 retainer. I didn't have $5,000. Derek had taken it all. I sat in my living room, surrounded by photos of Derek as a child. Smiling, innocent, full of promise. Where had that boy gone? I thought about just giving up, letting Derek win. What did it matter anymore? Then Linda called for our weekly check-in. When she heard my voice, she knew something was wrong. "Dad, what happened?" I told her everything. She was silent for a long moment. "I'm getting on a plane tomorrow," she said. "And Dad, remember your friend Harold from the water department? Didn't his son become a lawyer? Harold Patterson. We had retired the same year, had worked together for 20 years. His son Thomas had gone to law school, specialized in elder law. I called Harold that night. I could barely get the words out. Harold was furious. "Tom will help you," he said. "Call him first thing in the morning. This is exactly what he does." The next day, I sat in Thomas Patterson's office. It was a small practice in a modest building downtown. Thomas was in his mid-40s, professional but warm. He listened to my entire story without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Marlin, what Derek is doing is not just elder abuse anymore. This is legal manipulation, and it's escalated to a dangerous level. We need to act fast." "I can't afford a lawyer," I admitted. "I don't have money for a retainer." Thomas looked at me for a long moment. "My father told me what you did for him when his wife was sick. How you covered his shifts, drove him to the hospital, brought meals to his house. He never forgot that. Consider this pro bono. I'm representing you for free." I felt tears in my eyes. "Thomas, I don't know what to say." "Say you're ready to fight," he replied. Over the next week, we built my case. I gave Thomas all my bank statements showing the pattern of Derek's requests. I gave him the list I'd made of every emergency and every dollar. I gave him the security camera footage showing Derek at my house looking threatening. I gave him the contact information for Derek's neighbor who had seen him at the casino. Thomas explained that the court would order a medical and psychological evaluation. I would need to prove I was competent and capable of managing my own affairs. Linda flew in and stayed with me. She documented everything, took photos of the damage to my property, helped organize my paperwork. The court-ordered psychiatrist came to evaluate me. For 2 hours, she put me through cognitive tests, memory tests, reasoning exercises. I passed everything. Her report stated clearly, "Patient shows no signs of dementia, cognitive impairment, or incompetence. He is fully capable of managing his own affairs." 3 days before the hearing, Derek showed up at my house with Emma. Emma was crying. "Emma's been having nightmares about losing her grandpa," Derek said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "She heard we're going to court. Can't you just drop this?" For her, Emma looked at me with tears streaming down her face. But then, when Derek wasn't looking, she whispered, "Grandpa, I'm sorry. Daddy makes me lie." In that moment, I saw the truth. Emma knew. She had been forced to participate in Derek's schemes. Even his own daughter was a victim. "See you in court," I said calmly. Derek's mask slipped. Pure rage crossed his face. "You're going to lose everything, old man. I'll make sure of it." He left with Emma. I stood there, my heart pounding, but for the first time in months, I felt strong. But that night, I lay awake wondering, what would Derek do next? I woke up at 5 in the morning on the day of the hearing. I hadn't slept more than an hour. Linda was already awake, making coffee in the kitchen. "You ready, Dad?" she asked. "As ready as I'll ever be." Thomas Patterson arrived at 7:30 to pick us up. He reviewed the strategy one more time in the car. "Stay calm," he reminded me. "Answer questions clearly and directly. Don't let Derek or his lawyer provoke you. The psychiatric evaluation is on our side. The evidence is on our side. Just tell the truth." The county courthouse was an old brick building downtown. We arrived early, but Derek was already there. He stood near the entrance with his attorney, a man in an expensive 3-piece suit carrying a leather briefcase. "That's Marcus Brennan," Thomas muttered. "He's not cheap. I wonder how Derek afforded him." Later, I would find out that Sarah's parents had paid for the lawyer, not knowing the full story of what Derek had been doing. Derek wouldn't look at me. He kept his eyes down or talked quietly with his lawyer. We entered the courtroom. Judge Dorothy Klein was presiding, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. The court reporter set up her equipment. The bailiff called the court to order. In the matter of the guardianship petition for Marlon Joseph, the judge began. Derek's lawyer, Marcus Brennan, stood up. "Your Honor, my client Derek Joseph has filed this petition out of deep concern for his father's well-being. We will demonstrate that Mr. Marlon has become incapable of managing his finances and is susceptible to exploitation." The hearing began with Derek taking the stand. He looked nervous but determined. His lawyer walked him through his testimony. "Mr. Joseph, can you describe your concerns about your father?" "I love my father," Derek said, his voice breaking slightly. "But over the past year, he's changed. He's become paranoid. He accused me of stealing from him when I was just trying to help. He sent me a threatening letter through a lawyer. He tried to get me fired from my job by telling them lies." "And what specific behaviors have you observed?" "He forgets conversations we've had. He gets confused about dates and events. He's isolated himself. I'm worried he's being taken advantage of. I watched him lie so smoothly, so convincingly, and felt sick." Sarah was called next. She looked terrified as she took the stand. Under Derek's lawyer's questioning, she testified that I had seemed confused during recent visits, that I sometimes forgot things we'd talked about. Thomas cross-examined her gently. "Mrs. Joseph, has your husband ever asked you to lie for him?" "Objection!" Derek's lawyer jumped up. "Relevance. Sustained," the judge said. But Sarah's hands were shaking. Everyone could see she was uncomfortable. Then Marcus Brennan dropped a bomb. Your Honor, we have evidence that Mr. Marlin has been sending money to online scams, which demonstrates his susceptibility to fraud and his inability to manage his finances responsibly. He handed a stack of papers to the judge, bank transaction records. They showed 7 transactions from my checking account over the past 6 months to various companies: Publishers Sweepstakes, Nigerian Prince Recovery Fund, IRS tax settlement, tech support security, and others. Over $3,000 total. I stared at those papers in shock. I had never sent money to any of those places. I'd never even heard of them. Thomas leaned over and whispered, "Did you make these transactions?" "No," I whispered back. "Never." He asked for a recess. The judge granted 10 minutes. In the hallway, we examined the documents more closely. The transactions were from my checking account, but I hadn't authorized them. Then it hit me. Derek had my checkbook. He'd had access to my accounts for years. He must have made these transactions himself to create evidence that I was being scammed. "How do we prove it?" Linda asked. Thomas shook his head. "That's the problem. These are legitimate bank records. We'd need to prove Derek made them, and that's going to be hard." When we went back into the courtroom, I took the stand. Thomas questioned me first, walking through my entire story. I explained the pattern of Derek's requests for money, the lies, the manipulation, the threats. I showed my list of every emergency Derek had invented. I explained the vandalism, the slashed tires, the intimidation. Then I presented the psychiatric evaluation, showing I was fully competent. But when Derek's lawyer cross-examined me, he was brutal. "Mr. Marlin, isn't it true you've become paranoid?" "No." "Isn't it true you tried to get your son fired from his job?" I asked if they had an employee assistance program to help with his gambling problem. His alleged gambling problem, which you have no proof of, correct? His neighbor told me he saw Derek at the casino multiple times. "Hearsay, Your Honor," Marcus said. "Mr. Marlin, isn't it true you've been sending money to online scammers?" "No. I never authorized those transactions. But they came from your account, didn't they?" "Yes. But I believe Derek made them without my permission." "Do you have any proof of that?" "I didn't. Just my suspicion." The judge asked me directly, "Mr. Marlin, if you didn't authorize these transactions, how did they occur?" "Derek has had access to my checkbook for years. I believe he made them to create false evidence." Judge Klein looked skeptical. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have any evidence to support it?" "No, Your Honor. Just the pattern of his behavior." She nodded slowly but didn't look convinced. We broke for lunch. Thomas was worried. "The scam transactions are hurting us," he admitted. "If we can't disprove them, the judge might rule in Derek's favor." Linda had been working her phone all morning. "Dad's old phone," she said suddenly. "The one he replaced a few months ago. It's still at the house. It might have his banking app on it, and maybe old transaction records." It was a long shot, but we had nothing else. Linda called my neighbor and gave her my spare key. She asked her to overnight the phone to the courthouse. The afternoon session resumed. Thomas called Harold Patterson as a character witness. Harold testified that he'd worked with me for 20 years, that I was sharp, organized, never showed any signs of confusion or impairment. Derek's lawyer tried to dismiss Harold as just a friend covering for me. Thomas called Derek's neighbor next. The man testified that he'd seen Derek at the Riverboat Casino multiple times over the past year. It was helpful, but circumstantial. Then Thomas called Joyce Caldwell, the paralegal from Legal Aid. She testified that when I came to her office, I was completely coherent, organized, and capable. I had brought documentation, explained my situation clearly, and made rational decisions about my legal options. Derek's lawyer gave his closing argument first. "Your Honor, my client is a devoted son trying to protect his elderly father from making poor financial decisions. The evidence shows Mr. Marlin has been victimized by scammers. He's made accusations against his son without proof. He needs protection, and my client is willing to provide that protection through guardianship." Thomas was about to give his closing when the courtroom door opened. Linda rushed in with a package. She whispered urgently to Thomas. He asked the judge for a brief recess. Judge Klein, clearly annoyed, granted 5 minutes. In the hallway, Linda showed us what she'd found. My old phone, which had been sitting in a drawer. She'd had the neighbor activate it. In the photo gallery, there were pictures I'd taken months ago of Derek's truck parked at the casino. The photos had timestamps and location data, but more importantly, in my banking app on that old phone, there were screenshots. I had accidentally saved screenshots of my transaction history from several months back. The scam transactions didn't appear in those old screenshots. They had been added later to my account. "This proves the bank records Derek submitted were doctored," Thomas said, his eyes bright. "We've got him." But then we realized the problem. It was almost 5 o'clock. The courthouse closed at 5. The judge wouldn't grant another recess today. We would have to present this evidence tomorrow morning. And overnight, Derek would know we had something. What would he do? Thomas showed the judge the phone and asked to reconvene in the morning to present new evidence. The judge agreed, clearly curious about what we'd found. As we left the courthouse, Derek stared at the phone in Linda's hand. He knew. His face went pale, then red. We drove home in tense silence. Thomas warned us, "Keep that phone safe. Don't let it out of your sight." That night, Linda slept on the couch downstairs with the phone in her purse. I couldn't sleep at all. I kept thinking about Derek's face when he saw that phone. He was desperate now, and desperate people do dangerous things. At midnight, I was still awake, staring at the ceiling. My hip ached from sitting in the courtroom all day. I got up to get a glass of water, moving slowly down the dark hallway. Then I heard it. A faint scraping sound from downstairs. A window being opened. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and crept toward the stairs. In the dim light from the street lamp outside, I saw a figure in my living room. A man with a flashlight, searching frantically through my desk drawers. It was Derek. Linda was asleep on the couch, her purse on the floor beside her. Derek was less than 10 feet away from her. My heart hammered in my chest. I had to do something. I flipped on the hallway light. "Derek, get out of my house." He spun around, the flashlight beam hitting me in the eyes. His face was a mask of rage and desperation. "Where is it?" he hissed. "Where's the phone?" Linda woke up with a gasp, scrambling off the couch. "Derek, what are you doing?" she cried. "Stay out of this," Derek shouted at her, then turned back to me. "You're not taking everything from me, old man." He rushed toward me. I tried to brace myself, but he was too fast, too strong. He shoved me hard. I fell backward, my 72-year-old body hitting the floor with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through my hip and back. "Dad!" Linda screamed. She put herself between Derek and me, her phone already out, dialing 911. "Derek, stop. What are you doing?" But Derek wasn't listening. He was tearing apart the living room, dumping out drawers, throwing cushions off the couch, searching for that phone. 911, what's your emergency?" I heard the dispatcher's voice from Linda's phone. "My brother broke into our father's house and attacked him. We need police now." Within minutes, I heard sirens. Derek heard them too. He stopped searching and looked at the door, then back at me on the floor. For a moment, I thought I saw regret flash across his face. But then it was gone, replaced by something calculating. 2 police officers entered through the front door, which Linda had unlocked for them. "Officers, thank God you're here," Derek said immediately, his voice shifting to concern. "I got a call that my father fell. I have a key because I check on him regularly. He's elderly and not well." He pointed at me on the floor. "See? He fell. He's confused. He thinks I broke in, but I came through the door with my key." "That's not true," Linda said. "He came through the window. He attacked our father." Derek shook his head sadly. "Officer, my sister is upset. Our father is in the middle of a guardianship hearing because he can't manage his own affairs. He's been paranoid, making accusations. I think he tried to climb out the window and got confused." One officer helped me to my feet. Pain shot through my hip. "Sir, do you need an ambulance?" "My son broke into my house," I said through gritted teeth. "He attacked me. Arrest him." Derek pulled out his phone, showing the officers the court documents. "There's a hearing because Dad's been having problems. He's been paranoid, accusing me of stealing." This is part of his confusion. The officers looked uncertain, glancing between Derek's calm demeanor and me, disheveled and in pain. "Sir, your son says he has a key," one officer said to me. "If he has legal access, it's not breaking and entering." I felt hopeless. Derek was going to get away with it again. Then I heard another car pull up outside. Headlights swept across the living room. A car door slammed. Sarah rushed through the front door, her face streaked with tears. "Officers, wait," she said, breathless. "I need to make a statement. I need to report something." Everyone turned to look at her. Derek's face went pale. "Sarah, what are you doing?" he said, a warning in his voice. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "I can't let this happen." She looked at the officers. "My husband has been lying about everything. He's been stealing from his father for years. He forced me to lie in court today. He's been abusing me verbally for months, threatening me if I didn't help him." She pulled a folder from her bag. I brought evidence. Bank statements showing Derek's gambling losses, text messages where he planned the fake scam transactions, his laptop with search history about how to get guardianship, and a journal where he wrote down every dollar he took from Marlon. Derek's face transformed. The mask of the concerned son shattered completely. "You stupid." He started toward Sarah. The officers grabbed him immediately. "Sir, calm down." "What have you done?" Derek screamed at Sarah, struggling against the officers. "I'm protecting our daughter," Sarah said quietly. "I'm protecting myself, and I'm telling the truth." The officers restrained Derek, putting him in handcuffs. He was still shouting, threatening, all pretense gone. This was the real Derek. Angry, violent, desperate. Thomas Patterson arrived within 30 minutes, still in his pajamas. He reviewed everything Sarah had brought. The text messages alone were damning, showing Derek planning to create fake transactions to frame me as incompetent. The journal was even worse. A detailed record of every scheme, every lie, every dollar. Derek was arrested for breaking and entering, assault, and domestic violence threats. The officers recommended an investigation into fraud and elder abuse. Sarah collapsed into a chair, still crying. "Emma's with my mother," she explained. "She's safe." "Why now?" I asked her. "Why tonight?" "I found the journal in his truck this evening. I read it. I saw everything he'd done, everything he'd planned, and I realized my daughter was learning from a monster. I had to stop it." As the police car drove away with Derek in the back seat, I sat with Sarah and Linda in my living room. A paramedic checked my hip, bruised but not broken. Thomas explained, "Tomorrow's hearing is going to be very different now. With this evidence, Derek's petition will be dismissed immediately." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. My son was going to jail. My family was destroyed. Linda put her arm around me. "Dad, you won your freedom. You won the truth. That's everything." The sun was starting to rise outside. Another day beginning. Tomorrow, the final hearing. Tomorrow, justice. But tonight, all I felt was grief for the son I thought I had, and the man he had become instead. I barely slept. My hip throbbed with pain despite the ice pack Linda had made me use. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face twisted with rage. At 7 in the morning, Thomas called. "Marlon, we have a problem." Derek made bail. I sat up too fast, wincing at the pain. "What? How?" Sarah's parents posted it. They didn't know the full extent of what happened last night. He was released at 6:30 this morning. Where is he now? We don't know. But don't worry. He won't skip bail. He'd lose everything. But I had a terrible feeling in my gut. Derek had nothing left to lose. We were getting ready to leave for the courthouse when my phone rang. It was Sarah's mother, Barbara. "Marlon, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "We made a terrible mistake. Derek picked up Emma from school early this morning. He told them he had a doctor's appointment for her. He's not answering his phone. I think he's running." My world stopped. Emma, Linda was already grabbing her keys. Thomas was calling the police. An Amber Alert was considered but didn't meet the criteria. Derek was Emma's father. There was no evidence of immediate harm. But police put out a bolo for Derek's truck. The courthouse hearing was postponed. All that mattered now was finding Emma. Police checked Derek and Sarah's apartment. Empty. Clothes were gone. They checked his workplace. He hadn't shown up. They checked his credit cards. One charge at a gas station 3 hours north, heading toward the state line. Thomas, Linda, Sarah, and I gathered at the police station. Sarah tried calling Emma's cell phone, the one Sarah had given her for emergencies. No answer. I sat in a plastic chair in the police station waiting room, my head in my hands. This was my fault. If I had just kept giving Derek money, Emma would be safe. If I had never fought back, this wouldn't be happening. Dad, no, Linda said firmly when I voiced this thought. Derek did this. Not you. Derek chose every single one of these actions. 2 hours into the search, Emma's phone pinged. She'd turned it on briefly. Location: a rest stop 130 miles north. Police units were dispatched immediately. Thomas, Linda, Sarah, and I piled into Thomas's car and raced north. We arrived 40 minutes later. Police cars were already there, surrounding Derek's truck. Derek stood near the tree line, holding Emma's hand tightly. Emma was crying. Daddy, I want to go home. I want Grandpa. We're going somewhere better, baby, Derek said, his voice strained. Somewhere they can't hurt us. A police negotiator was trying to talk to him through a megaphone. Derek, let Emma go. You don't want to hurt your daughter. Let's talk about this. You don't understand, Derek shouted back. They're trying to destroy me. My own father turned everyone against me. I'm not going to jail. I'm not losing my daughter. Against everyone's advice, I walked forward slowly. Linda tried to stop me, but I shook my head. Derek, I called out. Please, let her go. This is between us, not her. Derek laughed, but it was a broken sound. Between us? This has always been between us, hasn't it, Dad? I don't understand. You want to know why I needed that money? He shouted. You want to know why I hate you? Yes, I said simply. Tell me. Because you gave everything to her. He pointed at Linda. Linda got her college paid for. Linda got a big wedding. Linda got everything. And what did I get? Nothing. The words hit me like physical blows. I thought back. Linda had been a straight-A student. We paid her state university tuition. Derek had gone to community college and dropped out. We hadn't pushed him. Linda's wedding. We had hosted it, paid for most of it. Derek's wedding was at City Hall with a small reception at a restaurant. Had I favored Linda? Had I failed Derek? Derek, I didn't realize you felt that way, I said, my voice breaking. If you had told me. I tried, Derek screamed. But you never saw me. You only saw perfect Linda. So yeah, I took your pension money. You owed me. For years of being invisible. I was crying now. You're right. I failed you as a father. But stealing from me, lying to me, using Emma as a weapon, that's not the answer. Your mother would be heartbroken, I said softly, to see what you've become. At the mention of his mother, my late wife, Derek's face crumpled. The anger drained away, leaving only pain. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I just wanted you to see me, to need me, to respect me. He let go of Emma's hand. She ran to Sarah, who had come up beside me. Mother and daughter held each other, both crying. Police moved in carefully and took Derek into custody. He didn't resist. He just knelt in the gravel, sobbing. As they put him in the police car, he looked at me through the window. His lips formed the words, I'm sorry. I nodded slowly, a sad acknowledgement of everything broken between us. On the drive home, I stared out the window. Linda drove in silence. Finally, I spoke. Was I unfair to him? Linda thought carefully. Dad, maybe you weren't perfect. None of us are. But you loved him. You gave him opportunities. He chose to gamble. He chose to lie. He chose to manipulate. You can regret not seeing his pain earlier, but you can't take responsibility for his crimes. Intellectually, I knew she was right. But emotionally, the guilt settled into my chest like a stone. That night, back home, I sat in my living room, the same room where Derek had sat so many times asking for money. the same room where he'd broken in and attacked me. Tomorrow, there would be another court hearing. Derek would plead guilty. There would be sentencing. The guardianship petition would be dismissed. But tonight, I mourned. Not for the son I had, but for the son I thought I had. For the little boy in the photos on my walls who had somehow become this broken, desperate man. And I wondered if I could have stopped it. If I had just seen him differently all those years ago. 1 week later, I stood in the same courtroom where this nightmare had played out. This time, Derek stood before Judge Klein in an orange jumpsuit, shackled at the wrists and ankles. His lawyer had advised him to plead guilty. The evidence was overwhelming. Derek pled guilty to fraud, elder abuse, assault, and attempted custodial interference. Judge Klein looked at Derek with a mixture of disappointment and stern judgment. "Mr. Joseph, you exploited your elderly father's trust. You manipulated your wife and daughter. You fabricated evidence and attempted to steal your father's legal autonomy. These are serious crimes that strike at the heart of family bonds and elder safety." She sentenced him to 18 months in county jail with credit for time served. She also ordered full restitution of all money taken from me over the 3.5 years, though I knew I would likely never see most of it. Derek had gambled it all away. The guardianship petition was dismissed with prejudice, meaning Derek could never file such a petition against me again. After the hearing, Thomas helped me put legal safeguards in place. We opened new bank accounts that Derek would never have access to. We drafted new power of attorney documents naming Linda as my emergency contact and decision maker if I ever became incapable. We set up automatic bill payments so my pension went directly to necessities. Sarah filed for divorce. She and Emma moved in with Sarah's parents temporarily while she got back on her feet. I helped where I could, though carefully and with boundaries this time. Emma came to visit me every Sunday. At first, she was quiet, withdrawn. She had been through trauma that no 10-year-old should experience. Sarah had her in counseling. One Sunday, as we sat in my woodworking shop while I built her a dollhouse for her upcoming birthday, she asked me a question. "Grandpa, why did Daddy do bad things?" I put down my tools and looked at her. "How do you explain addiction, resentment, and moral failure to a child?" "Your daddy is sick in his mind," I said carefully. "He made bad choices, and he hurt people who loved him. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It means he needs help to get better." "Will he get better?" she asked. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so. But even if he does, it will take a long time." She nodded solemnly, processing this. 3 months after the sentencing, I did something I had been dreading. I visited Derek in jail. The visiting room was cold and sterile. We sat across from each other with a plexiglass barrier between us, talking through phones. Derek looked thinner. There were dark circles under his eyes. "I didn't think you'd come," he said quietly. "I almost didn't." We sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. "I'm in counseling here," Derek said, "and I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did." "Have you figured it out?" I asked. He shook his head. "Not completely, but I'm starting to see. I blamed you for everything wrong in my life. I made you the villain so I didn't have to take responsibility for my own failures. The gambling, the lying, it was easier than facing the truth about myself." "What truth is that?" "That I'm weak," he said, his voice breaking. "That I'm jealous. That I hurt everyone who loves me." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to tell him it would be okay. But another part of me remembered the fear, the pain, the months of manipulation. "I failed you as a father," I said finally. "Maybe I did favor Linda without realizing it. Maybe I didn't see you the way you needed to be seen. But Derek, what you did to me, to Sarah, to Emma, that was your choice. I can own my mistakes, but I can't take responsibility for yours." He nodded, tears running down his face. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm trying." "That's a start," I said. I didn't know if we would ever have a real relationship again. The trust was shattered, maybe beyond repair. But seeing him taking responsibility, even in this small way, gave me a tiny sliver of hope. Maybe not for us, but for him, for his own healing. 6 months after everything, I was in my woodworking shop when Linda stopped by with her kids. They wanted to see what Grandpa was building. I showed them the dollhouse for Emma, now nearly complete. That evening, Linda and I cooked dinner together. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Derek had sat so many times with his hand out, expecting me to fill it. "Do you regret fighting back?" Linda asked me. I thought about it carefully. No, I regret that I had to. I regret that my son became someone who would exploit me. But I don't regret standing up for myself. Why not? Because I got my life back. My dignity. My peace. And maybe, just maybe, Derek got a chance to face himself, to see what he had become, and to decide if he wants to change. Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Later that night, I sat on my porch, watching the sunset. My wife's garden, the one she planted 20 years ago, was blooming. Purple irises and yellow daffodils swayed in the evening breeze. I thought about everything I had learned through this nightmare, about the importance of boundaries, about how love doesn't mean letting someone hurt you, about the courage it takes to say no to family. I thought about other people out there, maybe sitting in their own homes right now, being exploited by adult children or other family members, giving their money away month after month out of guilt or obligation or love, feeling trapped and helpless. I wanted them to know, you're not alone. What you're experiencing has a name. It's called financial elder abuse, and it's more common than anyone talks about, and you have the right to protect yourself. Family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. Love is supposed to feel safe, not scary. And if someone in your family is hurting you, using you, manipulating you, you have every right to set boundaries. You have every right to say no. You have every right to protect yourself, even if it means involving lawyers and courts and police. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And sometimes, it's the most loving thing you can do, because it forces everyone to face the truth. I recorded a video message on my phone that night. I saved it for Emma, to give to her when she's older and can understand. In it, I talked about boundaries, about recognizing manipulation, about the difference between helping someone and enabling them, about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be a victim, even when the person hurting you is someone you love. I wanted her to know that what happened wasn't her fault, that her father's choices were his own, and that she deserved to grow up knowing what healthy love looks like. As I sat there in the growing darkness, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, deep peace. Yes, my family was broken. Yes, the road ahead would be difficult. Derek would be released from jail in 9 months with good behavior, and I didn't know what that would look like. Maybe we would find a way toward reconciliation. Maybe we wouldn't. But I had something more important than easy answers. I had my freedom. I had my dignity. I had my life back. And I had the satisfaction of knowing that I had stood up for myself when it mattered most. The breeze picked up, rustling through my wife's irises. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I hope I made you proud." I finally stood up for myself. A bird called out in the distance. The evening settled around me, peaceful and quiet. For the first time in 3.5 years, I felt like myself again. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to set boundaries with family, even when it was incredibly difficult? Have you witnessed financial abuse of an elderly person? What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like mine? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's struggling with the same thing. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming family conflict, betrayal, and injustice. And share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes people need to know they're not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it wasn't an easy one to hear, and it certainly wasn't easy to live through. But I'm grateful I get to share it with you, because maybe somewhere out there, someone needed to hear that it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to say no. And it's okay to protect yourself, even from family. Take care of yourselves. Set those boundaries. And remember, you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter who's asking you to accept less. Until next time.